All right, here we go. We are live. All right, Central. We've made it back. It's been a long day for all of us. As you know, as you can see the sign behind me, we're running for mayor. We've got some pretty unique ideas. I think that we can be the middle ground in between us and what some of the other campaigns are doing. And we're just going to have a little live discussion. I think we're going to kick off tonight's discussion with a little bit about the City Hall project. We have some pretty unique ideas about that, and I think then we're going to take it into a discussion about unity. So we have Jamie Pope, Chris Michelli, Christy Mixon, and Rachel Perkins in the house, and I think me and Chris are going to kick it off with the City Hall project. So, Chris, we were talking earlier, you and I, and we was talking about municipal bonds. And we were talking about the City Hall project and how a large portion of the community is against the building of City Hall. I'm going to take a position, and that position for me would be, is I think we need a City Hall. I just think it's bad timing. I think the City Hall project is not a top priority. It seems to be promoted that way. So we have a unique idea here that may, hey, Amy made it. All right, we have a pretty unique idea here. So I guess, Chris, why don't you start off with what the bonding process is, and then we'll move into surety and then into private investment. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So right. What's a municipal bond?
So a municipal bond is basically a way for the city to finance large public infrastructure projects. It's essentially a loan that the city takes out with an investment company, and the investment company fronts the money, and the city uses those funds to do whatever public project they're planning on working on. It could be roadway, drainage, anything. They could build a library. I mean, it could be anything. There's different types of bonds. Generally, the two that most municipalities use are what they call GO bonds, which are general obligation bonds, which is essentially what I just described, where the city takes out a large loan. It is reimbursed through some sort of tax levy, through maybe a water sewage rate or a sales tax hike, or
add to your water bill.
Cat fees. I mean, there's different ways to fund these projects. There's also what's called revenue bond. So if you have a revenue bond for, say, a toll road, the proceeds from that toll road pay the bond back. So if you take $10 million out to build a toll road, usually within a large city, add the dollar or whatever you pay as you go through these tolls, pay back the revenue bond for the investment company. The investment company usually gets somewhere around a 6% interest rate off of that investment.
So make sure we understand, though, we're not talking about building toll roads out here. He's just giving an explanation between GO bonds.
The process for a bond is city issues a bond election. A bond election is basically just a vote. The city, or not always a city, but the district, it may not be an entire city. It could be a smaller district, gets to vote on whether they want the bond or not. They'll, depends on what it is. Both bonds are voted for or against all the time. Second step is the city takes the loan out, if it's approved, through the investment company.
A surety company. Everybody that's owned a business knows what surety is.
A surety company. That's right. And then the city repays the bonds back through tax levies. There's different types of ways to issue tax levies. It doesn't have to be a sales tax increase. I know a lot of people are against sales tax increase. Personally, I am too. You can, there's one of the most common ways to pay these bonds back are through water, sewer, and monthly your bill, your water and sewer bill. It might be, depends on the size of the bond, depends on the maturity date. If there's a 10-year maturity on $1 million, it might be a penny. You know, it depends on how many people are paying the bonds. There's a lot of variables that go into it. Usually you'll have some sort of fiscal or financial agent that prepares all those numbers, and they'll come up with an amount on what the district can handle as far as your bond rates and your interest rates.
So,
Chris,
go ahead, Kristen.
Okay, my question is, what is the why is a bond better than using the money that you have? Well,
there's different reasons. I mean, one argument that I hear a lot of people is, okay, we have $40 million in surplus for the city. I think the majority of that is already dedicated funds to public infrastructure projects. Then you have other funds. You have emergency funds. There's a breakdown. I don't remember all of it off the top of my head. But it gets to a point where, okay, you have emergency reserve funds that are dwindling down to maybe $1 million. What happens if another flood comes through and there's issues or road gets washed out, whatnot? You may need those emergency funds. So if that's the issue, bonds are a good way to front that money to reimburse, and it's not such a bad thing. I mean, it's done. It's pretty common. It's not a big deal. I don't think the city of Central, as far as I know, has ever issued a bond. So it may be a new thing for them. But it's a good way to get the ball rolling. If you have drainage problems, if you have a lot of complaints, a lot of big drainage problems, and you need to get this done now before you exacerbate flooding problems for everybody, it's a good way to get the job done quicker.
Well, some of the estimates that I've heard.
So basically,
Christy, you go again. Go ahead, Christy.
Basically, it allows you to keep your money in the bank for emergencies, and then you do the bond, and it's paid for, out of something like the water bill, which would be fine. I don't think that would be big enough for anybody to notice.
50 cents, 30 cents, $1, something like that.
I'd do it.
Well, secondly, there's been some estimates on some of the drainage problems we have, and I've heard estimates as high as $40 and $50 million to do some of the drainage projects that we need done around here. Now, I've also heard this statement, and I don't want to pinpoint who said it, but a person in power said this to me, that I can either have IBTS digging ditches or filling potholes. I can't do both. So if that's the case, we're going to have to think of something different to approach some of our drainage issues. So that's one type of bond. But what we're speaking about specifically, I guess I'm going off on a tangent. What we're speaking about specifically is the city hall. So here's my idea, and it's just an idea. It's not a policy. I know there's a lot of people up in arms about the city hall project, as opposed to the city. My understanding, they're spending cash on the city hall, as opposed to the city spending cash and going on the 24th to approve this, and then starting construction or whatever stage they're in. Why don't you do it as a bond proposal to the community so the community has to vote on it? Majority rules. It's pretty simple. So if the community has to vote, on this, it's not a group of 6 people that are making a decision for an entire community. Right. Some people may agree, some people may disagree. But if we still have the cash after the community vote or the municipal bond, and you don't want to pay the 6% interest rate, I get that philosophy. I think cash is king, but you can pay it off. You've got, supposedly we have $12 million in the bank. Pay it off if that's what the community wants. But put it up for the vote. Let the citizens decide. Let it be part of the election. Wear that around the politician's neck. If he is going to propose a project, a $5, $6, $7 million, whatever it ends up being, dollar project, and the citizens haven't had the opportunity to vote on it, consider that when you're voting for that person. Now, you can't segregate. Let me finish 1 second. I got one more piece of puzzle, so nobody thinks that I'm throwing one party under the bus and not the other, because I'm going straight down the middle. So you have to consider this, that the people that did the community center committee, you had one sect that was in during the first administration, and one of the people that are running for public office now for this particular position was the chairman of that committee. So you can't have one guy saying, no, I don't want this, I'm running opposed to it, when he was the committee chair that proposed this in the first place. And then you have another guy that is pushing this through when there's a lot of feedback, a lot of citizens don't want it. Is it majority? Is it not the majority of the citizens? I don't know. I don't know. Let's vote on it. Let's find out. Propose it as the city council should propose it as a municipal bond. Let the citizens vote on it. We're going to pay $1, $2, 50 cents, whatever it may be, on your water bill, your sewer bill, whatever process they decide to put in place to make sure that it's refunded back to the surety company. A second piece of that is all of you guys that are buying, you have extra cash. A lot of us do here in Central. We're upper middle class. So a lot of people have a lot of extra cash laying around. So here's another idea. The surety company will sell you back portions of that bond as a Central citizen, and they'll pay you whatever rate you negotiate with them for that bond. So let's say CDs right now, I don't know what the CD rate is, so don't chisel me in stone. Let's say the CD rate right now is 2.5, 2.6, whatever it may be. Sometimes you can buy these municipal bonds back from these surety companies. Being that the city of Central is the surety holder, you're gambling that the city of Central is not going to go under for sure. And sometimes you can get 3%, 4%, and 5% back on some of these surety bonds. So if you're a Central investor and you have some extra, let's say you have 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 grand laying around the house that you normally are just rolling over to CDs to gain that 1%, 2%, 3% that CDs are returning right now. You could buy back and invest back into the same surety that you're voting on. And that surety is also part of the city. And the city is the one that's actually backing the bond. So you're actually betting that the city is not going to fail over a 10-year period, but you're getting a higher return on your investment. So with that said, Chris, is there anything you want to add to bonding that I missed?
Yeah, there's two things. The first is if you live within the district that is proposing the bond election for whatever improvement, you'll be tax exempt from that bond. If you live, so if investment company, if you decide to go buy these bonds from the investment company for the city of Central and you live within that district, then you are tax exempt from the purchase. There was something else, but I can't think of what it was.
Well, while you think about it, my question to Mark, was going to be, what do you think about the tag on the proposed city building? Do you think we could do something better for less, or I mean, what do you think about that?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I know me. All right, let me speak about me. I'm very frugal. I'm very frugal, and I'm adamant about getting the best bang for my buck. Me as a person.
I can attest.
You know, I know you can because we've done business before, and so she knows that about me. Is I'm going to get everything that I can for the smallest amount of money. I haven't dug deep enough into the city project, who they're bidding it to. I know there's a bid process that you have to go through the city and things like that. Personally, right now, I think it's bad timing. I think it's just bad timing to put a city hall project up. Is that something that we need in the future? Yeah, but it should be part of a city community center, not just a city hall building. I don't need, if I get elected mayor, I don't need a fancy office to sit in. I would recommend that we go buy some old building, refurbish it, make it nice and pretty on a main thoroughfare somewhere, and put this off. Put that off to a later date. That just doesn't need to be done today. I believe that Central is the shiny city on the hill in East Baton Rouge Parish. To me, I love this city. I've spent over 30 years here, raised my kids here. But do I think that we need a city hall project right now? No, I really don't. I think it's bad timing. Do I think we need a nice city hall building at some point? Yes. But my project, I want to say this correctly, not so it's misinterpreted. My priority would be drainage. That's the top priority around here. It's drainage. Its second priority is refixing some of the development code. Not necessarily the master plan that everybody freaks out about when somebody wants to adjust the master plan, but the building code in general is updating our building code so nobody can just build any old thing that they want to build. Is updating our building code. Right now, our building code is something that's, there's
not a lot of detail.
Yeah, it's just not a lot of detail.
It leaves a lot to be desired. And when you pull into a city and you see, old metal buildings or even new metal buildings without a nice facade, and then, other just basic buildings next to it that might even be lawyers' offices, you're just like, oh, okay, this is a little town. I don't think what we have right now actually represents what our city is. Our city is in complete agreement with everything, especially new commercial. I think they have to pull out all the stops on that.
I agree. I think we're not saying that update the building code on pre-existing buildings, so people don't get that confused. What we're saying is, because pre-existing buildings should be grandfathered in, they've been here forever, and you certainly can't make somebody do something to his property he doesn't want to do. But over time, as they want to update those buildings, like some of the people complain about. Rachel, what is the name of that corner again?
Pratt Corner.
All right. So I didn't want to say it. So there's a building over there on the corner of Hooper and Sullivan, and everybody complains about it and has for a very long time. So if they ever want to make modification of that building, the building code would take over and say, okay, it's got to be a certain size, maybe a certain type of facade on it, certain type of roofing material, maybe even a certain color, being that it's it's going to be across from City Hall, because you certainly can make a City Hall district. So I'm not saying that we need to update the building codes for pre-existing buildings so much. What I'm saying is if somebody wants to build a development here in Central, that development should have a high bar to meet. We are the shiny city on the hill. Our price values are rising and rising fast. Christy can attest to that. So
everybody wants to be in Central. That's what you said? Correct. Everybody wants to be here.
That's right, because of our schools. So if we're just developing, and we're developing, certainly we're going to get the tax rate in off of the tax for the developments that are coming in, housing developments that are coming in, and eventually we'll be able to upgrade the schools because of those tax rates. But what comes first? The kid comes first. The taxes come later. So you can't just automatically, have that ready to go for when you've got. I don't remember. What is the Shoe Creek development? Is it 400 houses, if I recall right? I think it's 400 houses, 200 apartments. So you got 600 families that are going to move in here over the next couple of years. That tax rate is not going to hit us for another year or two. So what is the school going to do to accommodate those kids while they're in school until those taxes hit, so they can do some expansion or whatever they need to do to make sure we don't have 60 kids in each class? So I guess
on T buildings.
That's correct. And they're going to have to do something like that. So we're going to have to make sure that we're matching development, housing development, setting the bar really high. You got to have a certain type of mailbox. You got to have curb and gutter systems, 6-inch concrete streets, curb and gutter drainage, retention, detention, containment, whatever it takes. If there's a bayou that's behind it that is not going to be able to handle the volume of water because of, for whatever reason, they're required to upgrade it. And so we need to put all that in our building code. Currently, it's not. Currently, I think it's some sort of negotiation process that they have going on because it's not written in the building code.
Which is not protecting the current citizens that we have now.
Right. And Chris, I think you were talking about earlier, we were reading, and it was talking about that whatever we match Baton Rouge's building code. Can you explain that?
Right now, there's certain parts of the UDC code for the city of Central that basically just references parish, or there may be Baton Rouge references, but mostly it just references parish guidelines. They're not specific for the city. There's a lot of things in the UDC that are vague a little bit. I don't think it's specific for the city of Central. I think that's one thing that they can update to make Central stand out a little bit better. It's certainly a time-consuming process to update that, but I think you can make small changes here and there that will make a big difference.
All right. I think we finished with bonds and all that stuff. I think we kind of took it a little further than we wanted to, actually. So we have. We did, but that's good information. We wanted to bring that into it because I think that you can't differentiate the candidates from that single issue, because you got one candidate that said was on the committee and you got the other candidate that's going to build it. It's the same issue, both candidates. So why not put it to the citizens for a vote? That's my suggestion. That's bottom line. Whether you do bonding or whatever it may be, the city council should turn it down until the citizens have an opportunity to vote on it. We're speaking specifically about City Hall when I say that. All right, so we got 4 ladies here. We're going to change the topic. We've got Jamie, Christy, Rachel, and Amy. So the last 4 or 5 days, because of me, Central, I say, about 20 or 30 people that I've argued with over the years. Now, a lot of the stuff is, Christy, repeat that. You broke up.
Oh, I don't even know if it's that many.
Okay. So about whatever the amount of people is, a very small amount of people. I've been upset because over the years I've argued with them about the Shoe Creek development. I've argued with them about drainage or whatever it may be. I'm a technical guy. Chris is a technical kid. My other son's an engineer as well. My daughter's an engineer. And, our Christmas dinners are, math equations is the puzzles that we do. Just it's how our minds work. And so when I argue with these people, sometimes I think that I argue the point because I don't understand their point of view and because it doesn't make sense to me. And I think they get offended by that. There's been a lot of misinformation that has gone on some of these pages the last few days, and it honestly just needs to stop. It's most of that stuff they said Marcus cursed or Marcus did that. The IT committee, my background is building out networks like the one that I proposed for Central. I've built them all over this country. It's not new. I'm not some guy sitting in a computer shop rebuilding a computer that thinks he knows how to design and install a fiber network. I'm a guy that's actually been out there and done it in hundreds of cities across this country. It's how I made my living. It's how I've made the money that I live on today. So I don't even want to hear that nonsense. We jumped out of that because the Shoe Creek development was so hot and everybody was upset with the mayor and the council and everyone else. I got a point I'm getting to, ladies. I'm sorry. I keep talking. And I felt like that we were just in the way. Everybody was attacking us to get to them. And so I had 5 or 6 ladies on the committee, and they weren't as technical as I was, with the exception of one. And I'm not mentioning their names because I don't really want to bring them into this debate about the IT committee. We proposed bringing fiber into Central, a public utility. But not only that part of the process, we also proposed as part of Central, we were going to create a community center. You got and I'm just giving a brief overview so people can get this out of their mind. You have 2 sects of kids in school. You got one sect that likes to play football and run track, and you got the other kid that likes to go home and play on his computer and figure out how things work. 2 different types of kids. Nothing wrong with either one of them. I was proposing a community center for the second type of kid. And the community center would be sponsored by people like Cisco, Motorola, Microsoft. A lot of these programs are free for their certifications. So they could work in this community center with the fiber that we're providing for the city, maintain that fiber, and also do some business promotions, learn how to build a web page, learn how Google works, maybe build a program or 2. So in the process of all of that, having fun, they come out of high school with maybe their Microsoft certification, maybe something as simple as an A+, or maybe they come out with their Cisco certification, something as simple as their first CNA. Maybe they come out with something unique like a Motorola certification. All those companies will donate all that stuff to us. All I have to do is call and ask, and they'll give it to us. And so then you have a place for these kids to go. So in the meanwhile, I'm explaining this, ladies. I'm getting to a point. I'm sorry. So in the meanwhile, these kids are promoting all of our small businesses around here through Google antics, and we're driving tax dollars and traffic into Central. And so it actually is a revenue. It's a revenue booster. So in other words, let me give it to you in layman's terms. I'm a little old lady that lives in Watson. My refrigerator goes out. What do? I call my daughter. My daughter picks up her Google on her phone and says, for refrigerator repair, Google says, okay, within this 10-mile radius, these are your repair guys. As a small business owner, a lot of small business owners can't afford to do those types of things. But as a city, it's really a free process. It's just a matter of knowing how to do it. And it drives that tax revenue to that refrigerator repair guy here in Central. At least he gets a shot at the business. There's a gutter guy I know that's over, that's local here. It'd be great for him. You know, these small home-based businesses, and that's all revenue generating for us. And it's free, and the kids get something out of it. So anyway, they attacked all these girls on those processes about me talking about those types of things, and they got ugly. They got ugly to them for no reason, just because they were defending me and the ideas that I had. At the time, my thought process was just to bring Central together. Is the anti-T&Ders to the T&Ders. We put a fiber work network into the T&D. Everybody gets free internet and free telephone service, or nearly free. That gets maybe 10 gigabit services, and the city owns it. And the city gets revenue off of it from the T&D or whatever new development comes in. That was the idea. That was where we had the federal government paid for most of it. At the end of it, I walked away from it. I quit to make sure that that is correct. I quit. And I quit because there was just too much chaos. So these 4 or 5 girls right here have been taking all this flack on the internet for that. Something called cronies, minions, girls, you take it from there. Whichever one of y'all want to kick off. I just think that kind of still is silliness and needs to stop. We all go to church together. We've been to school together. I've been to some of you guys' houses and had barbecues. It just needs to stop. There's no reason.
Yeah, I mean, our businesses have been threatened. Our parenting has been talked about, and that's so very juvenile and not the biggest picture that we need to see for our city. We are all mothers, fathers, grandparents. We moved here for a reason. I came back from Florida. I lived on the beach. I came back from Florida to be here. And
we lost Christy.
Anyway, what she's saying is that everybody wants to be in Central, and what they're doing is it's like they'll insult your parenting, like she said. That has happened to me. They do anything they can. They take low blows. They don't keep it political and then have a civil conversation later. It's past that point, and it shouldn't go that far.
So you had somebody call you, Rachel. I think the term was a bad parent. Does she know you?
Maybe I should put down the phone. I could probably find it and read it for you. I'll look for it while we're on.
So we're talking about Gloria, correct? Isn't that the lady's name?
Her name is
Gloria, the lunch lady. That's the same one?
Lunch lady, that's right. Now, I've said some mean things, no lie, and it's in response. But yeah, the lunch lady pretty much insinuated that I don't pay attention to my child.
Well, Facebook and social media, to me, sometimes when the banter gets really ugly and one person sets it off, our human nature does not allow us to just leave it alone. It's like we're on the playground and that kid pushed us and we're going to push them back.
I agree. So let me ask one more question. Rachel, you have a child. How old is your child?
He is 3 years old.
The day that she said to you, Gloria, said to you that you need to get off phone and go take care of your kid, what was she doing? What was you doing that day?
I had been sitting in the nastiest little grassy, he just broke something, sitting in the nastiest grassy little swimming pool outside being burnt like a biscuit. That's what you were looking for.
That's right, because she was messaging me on and off all day that she was outside sitting with her child, and this lady's going to call her a bad parent? This is the same lady. Hold on. Let's just let's break this lady down slightly real quick. This is the same lady that originally backed the candidate that's in office now. She got angry, and she was funneling emails back and forth with the other candidate that's running that got fired. And then she leaked the emails back to one of the council members and said that the candidate that's running now that has a very checkered past, she was saying that he's a traitor and a mole. But being that she couldn't control the current mayor that's in office right now, the one that she got fired because she played Judas, so to speak, don't know if you know, you go figure that one out for yourself. As she played Judas with this guy and called him a mole and a traitor. Now today, because she couldn't control the administration, he's the Messiah. So how do you go from Judas to the Messiah in 3.5 years and change your total different opinion when you're the reason that he got fired in the first place? That blows my mind.
And that's exactly what I was asking her about. Exactly the conversation I was asking her about that, because I just don't understand. Like, how do you go from secret, private, little special emails calling people moles and traitors to, oh my God, we have to have him as a mayor? And then she goes for a personal attack of, oh, well, you must be a bad mom. Oh, okay, Gloria, you're a lunch lady.
That brings me to the point that everyone has to always make sure that they're doing their homework. You don't rely on what people say for anything. You have to make sure that you can find the facts for yourself, so that you know that no matter what you're doing, even in an election, especially an election, that you know who you were voting for and why.
Go meet them. Go sit down with them. Go sit in front of them and talk to them. Hear their ideas. Hear their different points of view. I'm not sitting here telling you to vote for me. My job is not here to convince you to vote for me.
Well, and y'all saying go sit down with the candidates and meet them. I actually had said on a thread that I would sit down and meet with any candidate. I've met Mr. Jr. I've known him since I was little. I love Mr. Jr., but I don't like his policies. I've met Mark. I've sat down with him. David Barrow messaged me and offered to meet with me, and I agreed. He said he had someone pass away and he would get back in touch with me. I go message him and ask when would he like to meet. He's blocked me. So apparently those same ladies that go nonstop on Facebook all the time repeated some type of message to him. And now I don't even have that option to meet with the candidate because he's blocked me. So that's his bad.
Okay. So let's go to Jamie now, if you don't mind. Jamie? So
yeah,
you had a gentleman on Facebook the other day that said something very derogatory to you. I think his name was like Pumpernickel or Pennyworth or something like that. Was that right?
It was Perry Whitney.
Perry Whitney. Oh, I'm sorry. I got Pumpkin Seed's name wrong. So Perry Whitney, what exactly did he say to you?
I think the conversation had started out between him and Rachel, and he didn't like what she had to say. So then he told her slow. So then I was like, "Are you calling her slow?" So then I became stupid and a black dot on the town. He told me that I'm a cow, all kinds of good stuff.
He called you a cow? How did that make you feel?
Well, kind of fat. I mean, I don't know what to say. I thought it was pretty messed up for sure.
You know, yes, it
hurt your feelings.
Her husband very angry. It angered her friends. I'm one of those friends. I'm very angry about it. She is gorgeous, beautiful. You know, to me, people like that, they just have nothing else to say. So they, again, resort to playground antics.
Well, that's what bothers me is the childish level that it seems to always get to. Nobody can have a conversation and it be productive. It always has to get down to name calling, and I don't think it's worth even having a conversation. If I went back and looked actually on the page to make sure that I'm not one of these people constantly stirring up the stuff, and to my surprise, even most of my posts are, "Hey, Central, smile, it's not that bad," things like that. I've been in most arguments over Mark because I don't understand why it's so important to make a daily post just to trash someone's name when they're not even present to defend themselves. And I guess that's why I'm now, I think, who was this? I don't remember who said it. I think it was Adam Salisbury, or however you say his name, said that apparently I'm tagged by a group of people, whatever that means. I guess I'm not in the cool crowd.
Okay, well, let me address that you brought Adam's name up. I think Adam comes from a very good family. I think his father's a really good guy. I don't know him personally, but I know people that know him and speak very highly of his dad. And his dad has a very strong reputation. If I recall right, he was a city police officer, and he's retired for that for like 30 years. Supposedly a really good guy. Everybody that I know that I know.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't him being rude to me. It was him telling me that other people were saying these things about me.
Correct. And well, what Adam is referencing was my disagreement a few months back about the the city police station being closed up until just recently, a few months ago. It was closed pretty much all day, every day. And I also asked him where some of the city equipment was when I was investigating whether I wanted to run for this position or not. So I come to find out that a lot of our equipment is sitting in people's yards. And I said, well, I said, regardless of if it's right or wrong, it's a bad image. It's four-wheelers and boats and emergency trailers shouldn't be sitting in people's yards. It's a bad image. It's just not something that should be happening. Secondly, we're paying, if I recall right, the last budget I looked at, I think we're paying $660,000 for our city police budget. And that's increased by about 30% a year over the last few years, coming from a $100,000 budget originally, I think it was. And so, some things are going wrong there. And I disagreed with Mr. Salisbury's policy. I don't have any issue whatsoever with Mr. Salisbury. Everybody that I know believes Mr. Salisbury to be a good man. Everybody that I know, so let me take that to another so people don't think I'm choosing sides. As everybody that I know that is also knows Roger Cochran thinks he's a really good guy. You make your choice based upon those two guys, based upon your own opinions. I was going after Mr. Salisbury's policy and not Mr. Salisbury. I think Mr. Salisbury is a pretty solid guy. I challenge you, Adam, to go find something that I've said negative about your father. This is the type of misinformation that gets on rants and raves, and people spin it out of control. He attacked me just the other day. No, sir, I didn't. I attacked your policy. And so what happens in these groups is they try to shred everybody into a million shreds so the people in power stay in power. The newcomers that are coming from the outside can get in power because they rip them to shreds. I'm a human being. I'm not the Pope. I've never lived like the Pope. If you think you want a Pope for a mayor, vote for one of those other guys. Neither one of those guys are popes either. So I suggest you go visit your church maybe and try to get your pastor to run, because that's not me. I'm a businessman. I'm direct, and I'm not going to sit here and appease you because your feelings are hurt. I'm going to run a city. I'm going to run a city and make it financially stable, and I'm going to move it forward. And I'm going to move it forward in a way that involves the community, that puts people on boards that are making decisions for development, that are making decisions for drainage, that are making decisions from City Hall. I'm not going to sit in City Hall and think I'm smarter than you and I can make decisions for you. So they try to rip these types of people apart so they can stay in power. And I refuse to allow that to happen. I'm not going to allow that to happen. People don't identify. People are not going to identify me. I will identify myself.
Yeah, and that's not how anybody should vote for a candidate, especially for our city. Most of us, like myself, we were raised here, we came back, and we don't need this type of stuff. We really just need to, focus on what everybody's strong points are, figure out what means the most to us, and take it from there so that we can continue to have a city, so that we don't end up like, I'm not going to mention names, but a couple of other cities who, they're struggling.
That's right. We don't want to put the city in struggle. But let me finish with this because we don't want this going on too long. Jamie, you're a wife. You have 4 kids. You're a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And when somebody attacks you like that, that doesn't really feel really good to you, does it?
Oh, I know.
God, no. Christy, you had someone attack you and attacked you. You're a business lady. You've got 2 kids, right? A girl and a son. The little girl just went into the military, the Army, if I recall right. Very honorable position. She's going into the Army. She just left for MEPS, I think, the other day. You were upset. You were upset this day when this. I don't remember. Was it Gloria that attacked you? I think it was.
No, it was somebody else, and I don't even feel the need to mention their name. But yes, someone else did attack me at that time too. At the time where I'm trying to console my 6-year-old, who's very close to his big sister, and he's trying to deal with the fact that she's going to be gone for at least for the first time, 16 or 17 weeks at a time, and then also trying to console her because what she's going through is, MEPS is a big deal. It's a lot of stuff. So, yeah, I don't have time for that crap. I don't have time for that at all. I'm fact-driven. Nobody really like I get angry, but nobody really hurts my feelings. But I just get angry because people sometimes can just be so simple-minded. And I say that and I almost stutter saying simple-minded because I don't mean it derogatory. But, you know, people are simple-minded and they take everything personal and they're not just trying to see the bigger picture here. And any conversation I've been engaged in on Facebook recently, you know, and specifically with Central Rants and Raves, has been about what the different people that are running for different positions in the city are going to do, and questioning people, picking their brains too. And when I do that, I get called names. So that just kind of says a lot about, you know, those couple of people.
Well, so people agree with your policy, and that's fine. You got no issue there. But when they start personally attacking you and threatening your business just because you disagree is probably wrong. Would you? So, Rachel, you got one little boy. You're married. You got a small business that you run. You've got some ladies on here that are talking in a derogatory way, telling you you're a bad mom when you're outside playing with your kid. When you're actually outside playing with your kid and putting it in public that she thinks that. I think one of them made a comment about a tattoo or something you had. Is that correct?
Oh, that
that was Christy. That was Christy that did that too.
Somebody did make a tattoo comment. I don't remember exactly what that comment was, but I did get a personal message from somebody that's known in the community that said, you know what, that comment that they made was out of line, and if I ever need someone in your profession, I know to call you because you handled it very well. And I have to give props to Rachel for helping me with that because I was pretty angry.
I imagine so. Amy, is there anything you want to add to this? I don't think you've really been attacked so much, have you?
No, I'm not as involved online as some of y'all are just because I'm new. But I moved here 2 weeks before the flood, so we didn't have internet for my introduction to Central because it wasn't working. But I think that changes things. When people go online, they forget that people have feelings and that they're real people.
So there's a good question for you, Amy. You're obviously new to the city, a couple of years here. When you go to these pages and you see these people talking like this to each other, I mean neighbors, generally neighbors. What is it? What do you think about that? How does that? I mean, what is that? How do you feel about that?
It's pretty shocking because you go to the grocery store and people are nice, or you go to the football game and everybody's nice. You look at Rants and Raves and you would think these people are heathens and this is a horrible place to live, and it's not.
Amen.
All right, ladies, I'm gonna give you all the floor. So what do we need? Chris, you can chime in too if you want. What do we do? What do we do personally to try to fix that? Now I know that I'm a little aggravated with a couple of them, and I probably have came off that way a little bit on here because of the way they treated these ladies, and I think rightfully so. But what do we do as a community? And I'm gonna turn the mic over to y'all. Y'all just talk about it. What do we do as a community that can stop that?
Well, first of all, have leadership that is very, very transparent. And obviously, social media is a very big part of today. So you also have to reach out to people on social media. A lot of times I'm told, oh, the mayor can't do that much about people. You know what? For the political stuff, yes, he can. The little people who, hit their brakes in front of you and you almost rear into them. Yes, you can put that on Rants and Raves. That happens in Baton Rouge, Denham, wherever you go. But to have a median point where just everybody's bought together. And, half the time you do not know what the central government is doing. How many people can make all of these meetings? How many people can read all of these transcripts? You just can't.
Ladies, Chris, you want to add anything to that? You don't want any part of it. All right. So let me say this.
I think that if we can argue politics and y'all hear that?
You bad, Mom.
Personal attacks will be better.
We got a 7.
Well, I don't think that you're all going to stop all of the personal attacks. That's just, you know, keyboard ninjas, and I see it on national Facebook pages and such. But
I agree,
you know,
but when it's the same handful of people, I think that does need to be addressed. When it's the same handful of people every single day.
I agree.
I think,
And it's been that way for years. Go ahead, Chris.
it's the same people, and I think it's a bad image for the city. I really do.
I agree
Absolutely.
with that too.
Yeah,
You know,
Another thing I wanted to point out was like what Chris had said earlier on a post that I was on. A lot of these people need to realize the people that they're trashing do have families and kids at home, and they need to consider that.
That's a good question. That's a good question, Chris. You were younger. You were a little younger, you and your brother and all. Zach was under 18. And when I come out and was trying to explain to people that Shoe Creek development wasn't what they were proposing it to be at that time. They were proposing to be a ghetto project and Section 8 and all this other stuff. I worked on these projects, and I knew what it was going to be. And I tried to explain it. So they started attacking me personally. So you and your brother and your sister. I've been a single dad for forever up until the last few years. And so I've raised Chris, his sister, and his little brother pretty much alone for 15 years, Chris, more or less, give or take. And roughly. Roughly. So they relied on me to have a very close relationship with those kids. And so when they were attacking me when I was on this IT committee and just saying this craziest stuff you've ever seen in your life, how do you think it made Zachary feel? Zachary was probably, what, 15, 16, 17 at the time?
Yeah, I don't remember what age he was, but I remember the whole T&D argument, the IT committee, was really the beginning of when I started paying attention to anything politically involved in the city of Central. That's when I went to my first, I don't even think it was a council meeting. I think it was just a developer meeting. I pretty much didn't have a choice but to get involved at that point.
Well, it's because they painted us into a corner and we had to defend our family name. Would that be accurate?
Sure.
Amen.
Yeah, and so that's the same position they put these young ladies in. It has nothing to do with me personally. It has to do with they disagree with them, and they want to elevate someone that they think that they want in a position of power, and so they got to tear everybody else down that's around them in order to
I would much rather
that
someone be elevated because of what they did good instead of tear down everybody around them.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, I know I have a mouth on me. I can say some mean things, and I'm good at it. And I try my hardest not to do that. But whenever somebody insults your parenting and they a cow and they do all of this and they insult Christy's business, like, you give us no option but to respond to you, and I'm gonna do it. I can't help it.
I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. When you back me into the corner, I'm going to fight with you. And sometimes we say some things we really don't mean.
But I think it's human nature. You're either going to attack back or you're just going to back off and not even participate at all.
It's just the wrong way to move forward. That little girl, I was going to tell the story earlier, and I talked too long. That little girl actually texted me on Facebook today. She's actually a friend of my middle son, Zachary. And she texted me. She goes, I don't even live in Central. She says, but I'm part of this Rants and Raves group because I just come here for entertainment.
Right.
True story. Swear, just
read it.
like me did.
No, I have friends that live in Washington State, have never lived in Central, and they are on that for the entertainment. So I would say in closing with myself, that we have 14,000 people on that page. A lot of people who are very engaged with the community are on that page. And most of them are not engaged. They're just there for a show. So I really feel like the majority of Central is not, you can't look at Central like you look at the Rants and Raves page.
Central is not represented by that page, that's for sure. But it's not just that page. It doesn't matter what page you're on. It's the internet has made it impersonal, and that's what these videos are for. Is now you get to see who I am. You get to look me in my eyes. You get to look these young ladies right in their eyes, and you can tell these young ladies what you said to them on the internet. It speaks more about you than it does any of them.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
All right, guys.
Amen.
So the proposal would be is in order to unify the city. If you go read my webpage, MichelliForMayor.com, or go visit our Facebook. Facebook, I think it's Michelli for Mayor or Michelli for CentralMayor.com. I think it is on Facebook. Go read those pages. Michelli for Central. Go read those pages, and you'll see some ideas that we have about unifying us. And it's about taking both of these sects. I'm not in either one of those sects, so don't get me confused. Take both of these sects, the administration sect and the, what would you call them? I'm not sure. The ones that just hate the administration section of this city. And the proposal is let's put all these guys on committees. Let's take some from this side and some from that side. And you're now on a committee and you get paid for it. And you're now in charge of making sure this development meets our community standards. Then you send it to P&Z, then you send it to the mayor, then you send it to the council. That makes both of these sects work together. I can't get on Facebook and talk bad about any of you guys because I'm sitting on a committee with you. Let's do the same thing for drainage. The exact same thing. Let's put drainage out there. Let's form a drainage board just like Livingston Parish has. The will has already been made. All we have to do is implement it. And let's put those guys in charge of the drainage. And you pay them. You pay them a few $100 a piece a month. Each one of them, 1099 employees. Everybody's worried about, retirement and all that. All of them, 1099, every one of them. And you pay those guys. And now these guys are in charge of making IBTS or maybe even a small drainage crew. Go out there and start digging out these ditches and other things. And you make them work together. And then you bring the community together. And then we can start talking about a community center. We can start talking about a park instead of building a city hall, or maybe a city hall in the middle of the park, to where there's a skateboard arena, a basketball court, maybe an arena for people that can do jazz events or concerts, to where we're drawing in some traffic from other areas instead of just having a nice, pretty building sitting out in the middle of nowhere. So the council and the city hall have a nice place to visit, a nice place to sit down during the day. I just don't necessarily agree with that. So anyway, that's all I've got. If y'all got something else, add it in now. We're going to start wrapping this up.
Everybody in Central, I love to hear differing opinions, and I can respect differing opinions too.
Well, let's argue about policy. Let's quit trying to tear somebody down. If you're looking to elect the Pope, you should get the Pope to run, and quit tearing people down. That's really what it is. I mean, there's none of us that haven't had family issues. There's none of us that haven't had financial issues. There's none of us that haven't had a kid or something that's went astray or whatever it may be. And quit ripping us down because of it. It's just not necessary. Instead of opposed to that, my proposal to you is figure out a way to build each other up.
Amen. We're all sinners.
We're all sinners. I'm guilty. All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up. Michelli for Mayor. Go visit the webpage and go to the CCN group that's on Facebook. Also, the Facebook page, Michelli for Mayor, and read about our policies. Tell me where we're wrong. Tell me where we're right. Let's adjust those and fix them for everybody, not just me.
Well, there's a lot of information on that webpage that people probably have never even thought about that they want to go look at and then question the other candidates about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Win, lose, or draw is putting a new idea into the Central community, and people should evaluate it, listen to it, and figure out if it's for us or not. But it's certainly a different way of seeing things. Chris, anything you want to add?
Nope. I think we covered it.
All right, Chris. Thanks for the bond issue. All right, girls. Thank y'all. We appreciate it. Central, thanks for watching. We love you. God bless you. We'll see you next time.